Welcome back. What does America First mean? Well, according to President Trump, it means whatever he says it does. In a new piece for The Atlantic, staff writer Michael Shearer recounts his phone interview with the president in which Trump brushes off rare criticism from MAGA supporters of his seeming willingness to get involved in Israel's attacks on Iran. And Michael joins us now, along with former Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb of Pennsylvania. He's a Marine veteran and president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. Good to have you all with us. Michael, let's talk about that conversation you had with the president. Does it matter to him? Does he seem to be splitting up his base?
The measure of a politician is how well he can get contradictory parts of a coalition together to believe in him. And the challenge of governing is when you start governing, you have to make choices. And this is clearly a key moment for his coalition. And I think it has bothered him. I mean, he's spoken out to me on Saturday. He was speaking about it a couple times yesterday in Canada. He's tweeted about Tucker Carlson recently. I think he feels very strongly, and he's been consistent for weeks now, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and that the option of military force by the U.S. has to be on the table. There's a significant part of his base that sees in that statement a return to sort of the Bush doctrine of the early 2000s. I mean, that's where Tucker Carlson's coming from. He felt very burned by the invasion of Iraq, and we're going to see how that plays out over the coming days.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. It seems like he's always has been in line with his base, unless I'm forgetting something. Is this the first time he's really pushing back in a way that's significant?
Tucker?
No, Trump.
No, I think Trump has taken on his critics and his party his whole career. I mean, what is different is Tucker Carlson is actually basically an intimate of President Trump. After the election last year, Tucker was down at Mar-a-Lago for weeks. He's very close to the president's son. He's very close to Robert F. Kennedy. He was part of conversations about the formation of the government. If you go back to his time at Fox and after he left Fox, he was the most Trumpist of the people there. But again, the Trump message has always included more people than any one policy can contain. If you look, at tariffs and lowering taxes or anything along those lines. So this is a breaking point. I mean, Tucker was on a different web show yesterday saying that if Trump goes through with this could be the end of his presidency. So the stakes are pretty high, and these are very strong words being exchanged between the two men.
Yeah, certainly some sharp divides. Tucker Carlson weighing with Steve Bannon, Mark Levin, and others on the other side. Congressman Lamb, former Congressman Lamb, your state obviously is one that has gone for Donald Trump twice, Pennsylvania. It is one where certainly it's a lot of veterans in that state, people who feel very deeply about what happened in Afghanistan and Iraq. You give us your take here as to, I mean, you're surrounded by Republicans all the time. Like this Trump base, how fragile it may be on this issue. It is something that does feel like could be really divisive.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone lived through two wars that went on far longer than they should have. We sent a lot of our sons and daughters to serve in those wars. And I think the problem is Trump makes everything about his ego and about him. And so there's a big fear that, first of all, he's going to be manipulated into stumbling into a war just because he wants to feel tough or, somehow he feels threatened. And then I think we also have the issue of what is the end game? Iran is a country of 90 million people with an enormous military that's very sophisticated. So are all the working class kids in Pennsylvania going to be sent there for another 15 or 20 years? He has not prepared the public for this. So I think, people in states like Pennsylvania would be more than willing to sign up to support a president that makes the case about our interests. But if it's just about his ego and how he's feeling on a given day, people are not going to support it.
So, Rev, you've obviously known Donald Trump for a long time, and followed his moves closely. He is someone who, reflexively, his instinct seems to be he's pretty opposed to war. He has had occasions where he has backed down using the live force. He called in some strikes now and then. He has been saying repeatedly he wants this war to end. He wants to go to the negotiating table. But he's getting a lot, to the congressman's point, a lot of people in his ear saying no, including Lindsey Graham we played a few moments ago, saying now's the time. at minimum, enable Israel to go finish off this regime once and for all, or maybe even get U.S. directly involved. Where do you think how does he, knowing him, how does he assess this conundrum?
I think he assesses it as he does everything else, to where it plays to him, to show his power, to show that I was able to do what no one else could do. Remember now, he said I would solve Ukraine first day in office. I will do this, I will do that. So he is really looking to say to the world, I brought some peace here. Not that he escalated, because his ego wants a Nobel Prize or something of the sort. And the fact that now you have former allies like Tucker Carlson all the way across to the Steve Bannon crowd questioning him, I don't think it rattles him. I think it makes him angry. He just went through a battle with Elon Musk. He's not one that wants to be questioned by anybody. Oh, you missed the parade for his birthday?
Right. That obviously on the weekend. And to your point, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman from Georgia, who's, as MAGA as it gets, she has said that it would be a betrayal of America first if the U.S. were to be truly involved with Iran. We're going to come back to this story, but we want to turn now to the suspect in the Minnesota lawmaker shootings, who will now face federal charges on top of the murder and attempted murder charges from that state. More charges against Vance Belter are likely to come as officials paint a picture of a man who the acting district attorney of Minnesota said stalked his victims like prey. In Belter's first court appearance yesterday, a judge set bail at $5 million for the state charges. Meanwhile, court documents give new details on the timeline of the weekend rampage. These newly released images allegedly show Belter at the door of State Senator John Hoffman's home wearing a face mask, tactical vest, and body armor. Prosecutors say he identified himself as police before he began shooting. He then reportedly fled in an SUV that was retrofitted with emergency lights and a fake license plate that reads simply police. The suspect allegedly visited the homes of two other lawmakers that night, but was not able to attack. When he reached the home of State Representative Melissa Hortman, the police were there doing a wellness check, but he was still able to kill her and her husband. So, Congressman Lamb, you obviously served in Congress for a while. You've been in the public eye. It is a disturbing reality that violent rhetoric and, frankly, acts of violence are becoming more and more part of the American political life, and lawmakers, judges, those who are in the public service have more reason to be afraid.
No, that's right. And I think, if you look back to January 6th, I remember sitting there that day and just thinking the only reason these people are at the Capitol, the only reason they're storming their way inside is because Donald Trump has been lying to them about the election for about 3 months. And I remember thinking, what's that going to look like in 3 years? The compounding effect of that over time, amplified with these algorithms of social media. And I think we're seeing it. I mean, people are they're just crying out to have a leader come out and say, we need to be responsible for our words and turn down the temperature. Not only will Trump not do it, he encourages it to get worse and worse. Yeah, and in fact, Rev, the president flying back from Calgary last night was asked if he would call Minnesota Governor Walz to express condolences or about what's happened to his state, or even to check in on the investigation. And Trump dismissed it, saying, why would I want to talk to him?
And that is the point, that he is still so caught up in his narrow ego, which those of us that knew him in New York, he always has been like that. He wanted to plaster his name on every building that he was managing. This is not anything new. So I think to show any kind of sensitivity to him is weakness. It would have been strength, not weakness, to call the governor who was as vice president running against you. And it would have also put him on a higher level in terms of the perception of his presidency. He keeps playing low ball because that's just the kind of person that he is, and his ego reinforces that.
We, of course, will bring you any other developments in the investigation in the days ahead. Former Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb, thank you so much. Staff writer at The Atlantic, Michael Scherer, thank you as well. His new piece available to read online right now.